Hey, my name is Steve Parr. I am a Vancouver, British Columbia business lawyer. And today we're going to take a look at the Articles of Incorporation of a company. So this is a British Columbia Business Corporations Act company. So that means that the articles need to comply with the rules that are set out in that statute. So statute refers to legislation that's generated by the government. So we're not going to cover off everything here. There's way too much inside of articles to possibly fit inside of a video without boring you to absolute tears. But in this, we're just going to cover the basics here and take a special look at the shares. So the special rights and restrictions. Generally, the Articles of Incorporation tend to be fairly boilerplate. There are important exceptions, so that we can't get into at this point, but in general, the articles are going to be fairly boilerplate, and these kind of items here, up until Part 1 through 21, are often quite similar. So we're going to scroll down. This is where the incorporation number goes. So date of signing, it gets signed, yada yada. Anyways, we're going to go all the way down to the very end, and we're going to take a look at Part 23. Part 23, special rights and restrictions attached to shares. So when the company is incorporated, this is what goes into the filing with the registrar of companies, and because in there you're going to be setting out what the actual rights and restrictions are for the shares. And so what you'll see here is that how it's been set out here is that there's this handy table. This table summarizes everything that's contained below. So this is all the sort of like fancy legal stuff that is summarized here. As this says here, the foregoing is a summary only, and the event of any inconsistency between the foregoing and the following text will supersede. So cool. But this is helpful for us because we can take a quick look at what's involved here. So first of all, you'll see number. So we have 5 classes of shares here, and all of them have an unlimited number of shares that can be issued. We see this problem. I see this problem a lot with clients that come to me who have incorporated their own companies. They have done things like they meant to issue themselves 50 shares, but they put in a total cap number of shares that they could issue to themselves as 50. So meaning that they're really hamstrung. Like in the future, they're not able to take advantage of the flexibility that a corporate share structure provides you with. So that's a problem, and we have to fix it. So second thing, you'll see Class A common voting, Class B common voting, Class C common non-voting. Okay, what's the difference there? Okay, so basically at a very high level, the difference between common shares and preferred shares is that common shares have an entitlement to they're called participating shares. So they participate in dividends, and dividends are distributions of available profit to the shareholders. Profit isn't necessarily automatically a dividend. A dividend only occurs when the directors of a company agree, hey, we're going to dividend out to the shareholders, issue a dividend, some of the available profits of the company. Obviously, every company is managed differently, and you do come across companies that will dividend out money that is not a profit, which obviously can put a company into hot water. But yeah, in general, privately held companies are going to pay their shareholders, presuming that the shareholders are working inside of the company, as either employees, whereby they receive a salary, or as dividends. You can watch other videos that I've done on the distinction between the two elsewhere. But so what we'll see here is, participating. These are all participating. So they all have some degree of entitlement to dividends. We're going to take a closer look at that later on. But yeah, so voting in this respect, you could have shares where they have voting rights, but they're only applicable to decisions that only affect that particular class of shareholders. So for example, these Class C common non-voting shares, they might have a voting right, but it's only in respect of matters that affect the Class C shareholders. Generally, when you see here in a summary where there are voting rights, if it says voting, then they have general voting rights over any kind of matter that affects the shareholders of the company. So that's what that is. Okay, liquidation entitlement. What is liquidation? Liquidation is an event. It's a wind-up event generally. So wind-up means when the company is out of business. So they're done. Say it's not going well, whatever. There's $100,000 left in the company bank account. They have 5 laptop computers. They're going to distribute it all. So they're going to liquidate all the assets, and they're going to liquidate the MacBooks. They're going to sell them all and then distribute the proceeds. So they get $10,000 from those MacBooks. So they've got $110,000. And let's say that there are 5 different shareholders. They all have 20% each. So that means they're all going to get $22,000 each of liquidation money. But you'll see there's an entitlement. There's an order here. So, sorry, I jumped around between the common and the vote, and the common and the preferred shares. Coming back to that, preferred means that they generally have some sort of entitlement that is favorable to and in preference to the persons who own the common shares. So here, you'll see that they under this Articles of Incorporation, they have the first pecking order, and in this case, and this is where it's tricky, and I don't know if you guys are gonna follow this. This might be a little bit too high level, but it's redemption amount $1,000. So if you own 10 shares, 10 Class D preferred non-voting shares of this company, that means you have a entitlement to $10,000 because the company can redeem it for $10K. But if the company isn't worth that much and doesn't even have $10K, then of course you can't fabricate money out of nothing. So you might get less on a liquidation event, on a dissolution event, than your actual redemption amount. But because you have this priority here, at least you're going to have first dibs at whatever monies are available upon the dissolution windup of the company. So the way that this is set out is Class E gets second. So Class D are going to get paid out first, and Class E second, and then Class ABC, they're going to all have to share. So they're going to have to share. It's called pari passu. It's called they're going to share ratably. They're going to share on a pro rata basis their whatever remains. So going over to this next column here, retractable versus redeemable. What does that mean? Okay, so redeemable means that the company, at its discretion, can repurchase the shares of the shareholder. So if we've got 10 Class D shares that have been distributed, the company can go along and say, hey, Class D shareholders, I am issuing you a notice that I am going to repurchase your shares for the redemption value. So they can say, here's 10K, give me those 10 shares. Retraction is the opposite. So retraction is when a shareholder can compel the company to repurchase the shares from the shareholder. That's not often done. It's generally just a redemption right. Par value, not even going to touch this one. It's an arcane concept that really doesn't have a lot of currency, a lot of value in today's corporate structures, and generally it's going to be without. Okay. Well, just to satisfy your curiosity, because I know you're dying. It means that this is the minimum issue price for the shares that are issued. So when you first issue shares, they have to be worth at least a penny. So that's why that's there. Not going to say anything else about that. Redemption amounts. So these have no redemption amount, which means that there's no required amount that the company can redeem them for. And they're not redeemable either, which means that the company can't go along to the holders of the common shares of the company and say, hey, common shareholders, we want to repurchase those shares. The common shareholders can say, kick rocks, I don't care. and that's all they can do about it. You know, the company can, of course, can come along and say, okay, I want to, you know, I'll do it for $10,000 a share, all right, and cool, and they have the option to accept or reject that offer, but there's no fixed amount, you know. Whereas, you know, the redemption amounts we talked about earlier, they can come along and say, hey, I've got the 10K. I'm going to redeem your shares and take them back. So that's 10 minutes. I'm going to stop the video here. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and just drop them down in the comments. See you next time.